Hello there and welcome once again to Massalia Tales. In the previous episode, Cretheus finished off a garrison he'd been besieging for a while, starting our conquests of the Persian territories after defeating their main force. Epaphroditos was going up against garrisons as well, fighting with a serious higher stand garrison that proved no match for his army in a pretty standard sort of battle where we simply had them outmaneuvered, so victory was easy. Meanwhile, against the Gallic Confederation, we were teaming up with loads of armies to just crush their remaining forces, so that was pretty easy. Cretheus continued his rampage, taking on more garrisons that were depleted because of lack of food in the Persian Empire. The Gallic Confederation counter-attacked us when I messed up maneuvers, ended up with Bendis in pretty much the worst possible situation, but he ended up winning with heavy casualties against all of the Gallic Confederation's last forces, so the war was effectively ended in that battle. And finally, Cretheus continued his rampage, taking yet another part of Persia's empire. Not much left, let's continue. Finally, approaching his mid-70s, Bendis had achieved the goal of decades of work. The Gallic Confederation was no more. What he saw as a huge threat to Massalian stability was finally removed, and he had personally gained a massive following among the people that made it easy for him to lay claim to the captured lands for himself. But his long absence from Massalia had severely undermined his influence over the elites that filled out the Timokhoian Council. Just like with the distant Cretheus, the nobles who wished to see less power in the hands of these overrated individuals were scheming to restore some kind of public control over the vast personal empires the Republic had been forging. One concern that might prevent our Eastern campaign from continuing its very good momentum is the fact that Arachosia have come up with 1.5 stacks of elite troops and are threatening Epaphroditos here. He's sitting inside this settlement. It's got a 20-unit garrison, but it's not at full strength, so it's not able to provide the maximum protection. And of course, we've seen these Arachosian troops can just eat through pretty much anything we deploy. So, worrying. I'm thinking of using this spy to try and take a gamble at reducing the movement points so that only one of them could attack if they wanted to attack. I went for the larger one and failed, so that was the one with lower probability but bigger effect. They're riskier, but unfortunately it caused me to fail, so nothing coming there. But Arachosia in the end turn sequence actually offer peace if I give them some money, and I just said to that, yes sirree, because it's very easy to just pay that money out to avoid any threat of those main forces actually coming and making a dent in us. So you can see after that, they've actually just walked away. They're going to return back towards Arachosia, I guess, and that means Epaphroditos, rather than being on the defensive, can go on the offensive a little bit at least. He can go and fortify the border. I want to draw out those guys, the Scions of Xerxes, to come and attack him before we go for the settlement, because it has a big garrison. Now Cretheus is just going to continue his rampage. There's nothing the Persians have to stop me from doing this. All of their garrisons are half dead, as you can see, because they've had a food shortage for so long. So Cretheus literally just coming down and finishing off the Persian Empire. Actually, that was their last settlement. We're going to occupy that, taking the rest of that province there. So that was very nice. Basically, in about 4 turns, we toppled the entire Persian Empire, so that wasn't bad at all. We can see they still exist. They have some forces down there in the edge of Parthian territory, but I think it's just 1 or 2 units in little army, so nothing to worry about really. Persia will very soon be gone entirely. Now moving on, the Iceni offer me a non-aggression pact if I pay them. I'm going to reject this because you might remember before they tried this trick, they made me pay for non-aggression, then just ended the deal in the next turn. So basically they just took my money. So we are not going to be doing that again, especially because I asked for even more money. Now, in the northeast of the map, you may remember also that I've been creating this horse archer army, and it's now finally complete and is ready to move out. We are at war with the Horde of the Steppe that was recently created by Arachosia, so we need to try and put pressure on them. Here is our general leading them, Actor. I thought we'd have a little look at this guy. He's only 17 years old, he's born sneaky, and he's frugal. So he's managed to wile his way up into a position of extreme power, leading our defensive forces near Sarai, but an army basically entirely of local forces. No Greek forces are available to recruit here, so only his general's cavalry are Greek style, so it's an army entirely in the style of another faction, so it should be interesting to use. We can see here Sparta has very sneakily taken some of Parthia's territory, leaving them their capital still, but giving themselves a little base out here in the middle of the east, in the middle of our empire as well, so a little bit weird, but at least they're our allies, so no big deal right now. Epaphroditos is going to move out to attack Susie here because the force I wanted to draw to attack me has actually just disappeared. It's walked off somewhere. I wondered whether it had gone down towards that capital city just there, so I'm going to use this spy to have a look. There's a couple of higher stand armies around. Also, some more Persian armies. They've got some serious forces there, but they're really dead. They've been taking attrition for a long time because of that food shortage, so no threat whatsoever. Higher stand actually did still have that force just in the fog of war on the edge of the region, and it comes in to attack Epaphroditos. I thought I might as well retreat and hope that it actually continues on to attack me again to fight without the garrison, but unfortunately it did not. So at the start of the next turn, we get an outrageous blackmail. Iceni is being blackmailed for something or other that costs basically our entire treasury to deny, so I'm going to have to let the claims stand. He is going to lose a lot of gravitas because of that, but that's not going to be an enormous deal. So now switching back to Cretheus, with Persia basically under our control and without really any public order issues either, we can just move out right away and continue the conquests. Interestingly, Aracosia's capital has been taken by Bactria, so this might be the start of their downfall because that was their only region. So now they're going to take attrition on all of those elite armies wandering around the place, so that is great news. Now for Epaphroditos, I thought I'd try once again to set up a fort in my territory and see if those higher stand armies were willing to go on the offensive against it, because of course that would be very nice for me. It would make life very easy in that battle. If they don't, perhaps they'll just leave and I can once again try to go up against the settlement. For Acta, we're going to keep sneaking up on the Horde of the Steppe. I thought they might attack me, but they didn't. As we move in, we can see the situation. We've got an Aracosian army dying, a Persian army dying, and the Horde of the Steppe themselves sitting in their settlement. Now, we don't really want to attack this force because it's going to have their full army plus the full garrison, and the units are going to be basically equivalent to ours, possibly even a little bit better, so it's going to make life hard. We want to draw those forces to come and attack me, so I'm just going to fortify in their territory and see if they react to this. Hopefully they'll come up and start an engagement. So the final thing I'm going to do this turn is use this spy to just have a quick look around. I want to know if Higher Stand have any more major armies. There's another dying Aracosian army. They are taking attrition, so that is good to see. And looking around the final Higher Stand territories, we don't see any more armies. So it seems that Higher Stand, although they still have many regions, are on the verge of destruction. Will they call me Alexander? Will the people say that they live not in Persia, not in Mesopotamia, but in Magna Cretheia? The answers to those questions will be the same as the answer to my next one. Did I do the right thing to leave Massalia? After all the struggle, the eastern domain we set out to create is taking shape. It's all falling into place. But here at the end of it all, feeling the warmth of the gods bathe me as they gaze down in awe, I still cannot know if it will last. The closer I get to the end, the more I wish not to do, not to achieve, but only to be written into the memory of the people. Our people and those we rule. I want East and West alike to know that Cretheus will be the only man allowed to ride with Alexander in the afterlife. As we come to the turn of the Horde of the Steppe, they seem to just dance around Acta there. They fortify next to him, almost preventing him from going back to his own territory, but not actually attacking, so a strange move. We see lots of movements from Higher Stand. They seem to have forces around the place currently engaged with Bactria, so hopefully we can use that distraction to our advantage. The Gallic Confederation want peace. You might remember they're still alive because we have them under siege at Alabu, but that's not going to last much longer. Now we learn here that the Iceni have sent their war maiden down to start doing hostile actions against our garrison here and our army. You can see I've brought up the Heracleidae up from Europe in order to garrison this border, because the Iceni looking pretty powerful with 2.5 stacks combined there. Probably the AI cheating to have that many troops off a single region, of course. So there's a definite potential for them to invade here. We're going to need to start preparing for that. And first, what I'm going to try and do is get revenge on this War Maiden. I've got a spy nearby, and the War Maiden only had 1 cunning, meaning doing these cunning-based spy actions has a high chance of succeeding. We only got an opportune failure. Unfortunately, I tried to manipulate her, which would prevent her from taking another action or convert her to my side. But anyway, we'll try again in the future. But in the meantime, I'm going to get Heracleides to start bringing up the Eyes of Ares. I think we're going to need this full force up there because there aren't really any threats in Europe. Possibly the Namnates, but I don't suspect they're going to betray me at any point. So I think having our armies up there in Britannia right now probably is the best use of those forces. So now let's jump back into the east, where Cretheus is going to be able to continue his journey towards Bam. There was nothing on the way, of course, so that makes it a little bit easier. We're going to go right in for the siege. It's another one of these situations where the garrison's pretty powerful. We'd lose half our men if he auto-resolved, so I'm just going to wait out the 2 turns of siege to get them out of the town. They'll be a little bit weaker, and it'll be easier to take them out in a nice quick field battle. So next up, I was going to move some Epaphroditos' troops around, but first I thought I'd check out the actor situation actually, because it's a little bit of an interesting one. So we've got those horde armies that seem to be blocking us from going back, and these 2 Archabosphorus forces which are sitting near the settlement. You'll notice they're both damaged. Now I actually wrongly assumed here that those forces had tried to attack the settlement and failed, and that's why they were damaged and were standing around nearby. But actually they're not at war with the Horde of Steppe at all, which I just assumed they were. So that's a bit of a situation that's going to cause me to make a weird decision here. You can see I was just checking out those forces because I thought maybe I could take out that one Persian army that's following behind them, but actually they're in reinforcement range of the bigger army, so we're not going to. So I'll come down here near the settlement, discover another Persian army, nothing to worry about, and now I'm just going to tuck in underneath the daemons of Polymos here, thinking that they would provide me with protection if the Horde were to attack. Actually, they weren't at war with them, as I said, but the Horde didn't attack, so it didn't matter that I'd made that mistake. They just kind of fortified now on the road between me and their settlement, so they're just determined to stop me from moving certain places, not really going in to make any attacks. We see Hayastan appear to fail a counterattack against Bactria, so that's good news for us. Archabosphorus want us to join a war with Arachosia, and we're going to reject that because we do not want to try and tempt those Arachosians to fight us again. And now we see the final engagement with the Gallic Confederation. Their garrison at Alabu is sallying out against Eusticus. We take big losses on the auto-resolve, but I really didn't feel like fighting this because I knew it was going to be easy, and it's just of no consequence really, this battle. Unfortunately, we actually lost a full regiment there in the auto-resolve, so that's bad news, although of course we can just get it back next turn, so not a huge problem. So there we go at the start of this turn. Alabu is ours, another region of Swabia captured, which is quite handy, going to help our control, so we'll start converting that over. The Gallic Federation not destroyed as a faction because they still have navies around the place, but they won't last much longer. Now Archabosphorus just kind of scattered to the wind here on the steppe. I'm not sure 100% what they're trying to do. Their army is just wandering off. So realizing they weren't going to be of any help to me, I decided I'd put Actor back on the border and fortify, because we can't really gain a strategic advantage here. We're going to try and use Actor's sneakiness to fight where we have the advantage. So we're going to wait for a chance, see if Archabosphorus come back. Now I'm checking out the Hayastan territories. They're still pretty powerful as a faction, but we know their forces are either dead or are caught up, so I thought Epaphroditos could go on the offensive. And look at this guy, this Persian general doesn't even get out the way as our army moves down the road, so as a result we are forced to just kill him. And as it turns out, that was the last Persian army. I think all the rest of their armies must have been disbanded during the end turn sequence, because we definitely saw some more up there in the north. So Persia has been destroyed as a faction just like that. And Epaphroditos will now move on to besiege Susia as well. So we've got 2 sieges of the Hayastan lands going on now. So the Horde of the Steppe finally actually make a move against Actor now. For whatever reason, they weren't willing to attack him while he was in their territory, but now that he's fortified back in his own, they're coming out. So here's their army. They've got 1 unit coming in as reinforcements and an army with spears, bows and horse archers. I thought I'll actually give up the fort I've got here in order to try and get rid of those reinforcements by moving backwards, because of course a horse archer army isn't going to benefit all that much from being stuck inside a fort. Unfortunately, they had plenty of movement points, so we still have to face all of them. Now the enemy's army here is actually pretty much a perfect counter to what we have. It's got spearmen, enough to take on our lancers, foot archers and horse archers, which will take on our own horse archers as well. So overall they've brought a pretty good force, and you can see the balance bar agrees with that assessment. They are distinctly having an advantage there on the campaign map. Here on the battle map, actually a little bit more even, only slightly in their favour, so that's nice. You can see my starting deployment was to try and get them into a slight bowl formation, to try and get my men around the enemy's more compacted lineup, but it didn't really work out. The enemy focusing their attack right on my extreme right flank, just making contact between our lines, not really a full attack or anything, just coming into range, and the horse archers will start firing at each other. So the enemy's horse archers are probably going to be similar in quality to mine. Mine are area of recruitment units, which means they're going to have decreased quality versus native horse archers, which means the enemy may have an advantage, but really it's not going to make a huge amount of a difference, especially because there's going to be no melee and the missile stats are going to be pretty much the same. So the enemy now starting to come up to our line and unleash volleys on us. I'm starting to see here that the enemy might just have a range advantage over us, which is pretty important in a ranged battle like this. I think their men can fire without my men firing back if they stay at the maximum distance they can fire at. So that's a nice little bonus for the enemy, but of course this battle is going to quickly descend into a micro mess where eventually units are going to be firing at point blank range. So only at the start of the battle do they have this advantage. Their foot archers are going to have a nice advantage as well, both range wise and with ability to put lots of fire on a single unit. So over here on the extreme right, those units that came in first are now starting to get surrounded and are really peppered with arrows as I get multiple units of horse archers from my side to team up on the enemy, and you can see they're starting to get cut down. We are going to have to start engaging in the microgasm because their spearmen are coming in. So now we need to dance around the spearmen, take out their horse archers without losing our own, and try and defeat their infantry. Have you heard of the idea of a proxy war? It's a strange sort of thing, a case where you see war going on but it's only a mask upon the real face of the matter. I bring it up for here the average man sees a horde of stepped tribespeople, but in reality this is the hand played by the Aracosians, wishing to play these people against us to cut their costs. Rightly so. And here on our side, isn't it just the same thing? Another horde of some other clan of steppe folk marching to protect the interests of Massalia. We haven't really ceased our war with Aracosia. This is just what it looks like now. Anyway, I think it's time we made ourselves into a bit less of a target. Sitting behind the gap in the line is just asking for it. Let's ride out that way. Now I'm going to deploy my lancers against the enemy centre, but this actually doesn't make much of a difference because of course the enemy's horse archers will just get out of the way of the lancers. Here you can see the pursuit going on. They just shoot backwards, cutting down the lancers before they can engage, so not good. Here on the left flank you can see a battle between our horse archers and the enemies, and upon closer inspection you can see how just most of the men in these units don't fire. Even when they do have range, you can see units further back are firing. So I think there's just a problem with the game in general in how it treats horse archers. They just don't work, they don't volley fire properly, they just oddly fire now and again. But anyway, the lancers eventually found their objective, which was the enemy's general. We're going to try and bring him down with this lancer attack, and it was going okay, but the enemy's foot archers, nearby horse archers and nearby spear units were all coming in to really damage our lancers, and we actually started losing the combat quite rapidly here. Especially with those spearmen, we're going to have a weakness against them and some dead horse archers there firing in. Overall, the losses were large, so I actually quit that engagement before we killed their general and gave up on it. Out here on the edge of the battlefield, we've got some enemy spear foot chasing our horse archers, which is exactly what we want them to be doing. The same thing happening at the back of the centre, where I kind of did what I was going to do in general for the battle, which was just give way in the centre to surround the enemy and then cut them down. So only a few units actually fell into that trap, and they have summarily been defeated. Out here on the edge of the battlefield, the left edge, we are cutting down that unit of horse archers who were doing okay against me. We just beat them with sheer numbers. And now you can see the battle is actually kind of shifting backwards. What I'm doing here is just attacking with all my lancers, telling them to just attack horse archer units, which of course does nothing. All it does is gradually kill your own lancers. But there is going to be a strategic advantage to this, because we're basically making the battle take place over a much wider area so that the enemy's horse archers aren't going to interfere with these melees. So I'm coming back in to try my plan of killing their general once again. This time it's I that have the archer advantage, bringing in horse archers to support the battle. The enemy spears not coming in fast enough to make a difference, and we are able to take out their general that time, so it worked out in the end. Here at the original planned battlefield, the enemy are starting to really get scattered by our attacks, because now we have numerical advantage because their whole army has been pushed about all over the place. So Actor going to move forward with his royal cavalry here to just cut down these foot archers. The foot archers strong against horse archers, but going to be weak even if the horse archers just decide to melee charge them. So we do have a way to counter them. Meanwhile, back here, we've got a ring of death surrounding these enemy horse archers. They're totally inside our trap, just being hit from all sides by our own horse archers, and they're going to go down fast and try and get out of there. Those foot archers won't fare much better. In the corner of the map, we almost got crushed by the enemy spears. You have to micro the skirmish modes to stop this from happening, but managed to spot it in time and get out of the corner. So now the enemy will be forced to chase us along the edge of the map, and of course they are not going to catch up and going to be taking casualties the entire time. I've come back from the pursuit of those horse archers, brought all the lancers back, so now we're going to start a more serious fight here on this hill, but it is going to go my way because I just have more men left at this point. We've taken out all of the enemy's units individually now, so there's just more of us than there are of them. So even though, as you can see, my men not really firing, the enemies aren't really firing back very well either, so that problem is affecting both sides. Just means the killing rate's going to be slower than it would be otherwise. But anyway, you can see how this battle is going. We're starting to surround their remaining positions. It's really just a case of picking off these units and making sure we're careful to not let them ever make contact or do anything to damage us, because with our horse archer advantage now, we should be able to finish off the enemy without taking any more losses in this battle. So these spearmen having a really bad time. As you can see, they're just trying to pursue the horse archers, and that's never going to succeed. The AI will continue to try until they die though, so we're going to have to wait this battle out and slowly whittle the enemy down. So after a while, there goes the last of their horse archer units. We finished them all off. It's a close victory. We took a lot of losses, especially among those lancers, and many of the horse archer units were actually really badly hurt just in straight battles with the enemy's horse archers. But also we are in our own territory, so we'll get some of those men back. So in the long term, this is going to be an important win. There is muscle and money. Sparta creates the finest warriors the world has ever seen. Massalia finds warriors that exceed their usual mob and simply buy enough armour to stop a ballista bolt for them. There is power through true, real strength, and power through the access to the fruits of coward merchants. So let them have it all. Let them rule the savages of the world and try to teach them to read. We will create a world where every hut and ditch contains a warrior who will stop a whole army in their tracks. No, do not worry about Massalia. We are kindred spirits, but there should be no illusion that it is we who are the stronger, and no illusion that if they ever were to conflict with our interests, then their mighty republic will burn. So let's have a little look at the actual numbers of the results in that battle. Their reinforcement army dying right off the bat, so that's a hint that we've killed that unit, a good start. So the enemy army there, really destroyed, just a couple of units getting away. Our army, no full units destroyed, but of course massive damage across the board, basically half our troops lost. But as I said, we're in our own territory, so we're going to get some of them back right away. Highest Dan come to me with an incredibly humbling offer. They just want to be my client state. I don't have to pay them or anything, but we are going to reject them out of hand because we don't trust them at all, and because of course we want their territory under our personal control. So once the deal is rejected, they sally out against Cretheus. It's another situation where we're definitely going to win, but the auto-resolve doesn't seem to think so. So I just came in and played the battle myself on double speed, and here's that footage doubled again. So it's a quadruple speed battle this time. Not really much to it. You can see the enemy just charging in against Cretheus's pike phalanx and our cavalry. First wiping out the enemy's cavalry in an attack which went better than I thought it would, but actually our lancers lost a lot of troops, and the same thing happens again. It seems that when you engage the enemy's cav with lancers that both sides just get wiped out in the engagement. Not really going to make a difference to how the battle goes though, of course, because as you can see we're just rear attacking their infantry who were getting defeated against the pike phalanx anyway, and the rest of my cav now clearing up all the enemy's archers and such. Soon a chain mount is going to occur as the surviving units realise they've been totally destroyed. So there you go, nice quick decisive victory, nothing like the Pyrrhic victory that the auto-resolve was predicting. So that army's dead, they're also out of supplies, so we'll be taking BAM there at the start of the next turn. We also learned that Aracosia has joined our war, possibly with higher stand, so now we're at war with them once again. Pretty annoying, but we know they're on the back foot at the moment, so hopefully it won't be a huge problem. You can see here their home province definitely occupied by Bactria, so they have no territory, meaning they're not going to be a massive threat, and the extent to which they threaten us will just go down every turn because they must be taking attrition wherever they are. So for Actor, you can see he's got some of his forces back now still. Probably needs a couple of turns to get back to full strength. I'm just going to fortify on the border and watch what the Horde do. I'm not sure what the Daemons of Polymus are up to. They seem to be walking off for some soul searching out in the unoccupied steppe. I hope they'll come back because it would be nice if they would help me in this campaign. The Iceni try once again to extort some money from me for non-aggression. Definitely not going to happen, especially after their agent actions. Epaphroditos faces a sally from the higher stand garrison he was besieging, but it's really far in our favour and we can auto-resolve thanks to the fact the Egyptians, who were just hanging around as they usually are, actually stepped in and took part in the battle, and they actually took loads of casualties, as you can see, so they did the majority of the work in that fight, so that was very nice of them and means we're going to get a free settlement basically. Parthiva are trying to get me to buy them as their client state. I guess they're feeling a little bit worried now that Sparta has them on the back foot, but we are not going to accept that deal. And now suddenly we get a noble death, and as usual we don't know who it is until after all this stuff's gone by, so I didn't really want to watch the cutscene and find out who it was, so we're going to skip through it. But as you'll see, this isn't the only pop-up, there's another one. Another noble death starts the second I end that one, so it seems we've just lost 2 officers, and we need to get past this to see who it was. Firstly, Bendis has died, and Cretheus has died. The 2 massive figures, the 2 leading powers in the Timukoi are dead. The council immediately tries to adopt Acta, and I'm going to pay to stop that because we don't want to take even more losses to the Timukoi. So now we're going to have to bring in some new characters to replace those that are big figures. Of course, we don't have anyone of similar stature. What I'm actually going to do is we're going to stop it right here, and next time I'm going to review all of the characters we do currently have so we can see what's going on and what generals are coming up. And we're also going to talk about the end game of this series, where we're going to go. We've basically won all of our wars, so we'll discuss what I'm actually going to try and do to have something interesting happen to finish off the Massalia tale. So we'll continue with that next time. I hope you'll join me. The coming of 199 BC rocked Massalian politics, as the 2 major executors of the Timukoi died of natural causes, neither leaving clear instructions for who should take on their responsibilities. The truth was that there was no one with the influence or fame to step into their shoes. It would have to be institutional power that took over, and that gave the council their chance to start pushing against the suddenly weakened Timukoi. The military resources controlled directly by Bendis were huge, and with no prominent members of the Timukoi claiming them, it was easy for the local leaders of the Massalian council to restore ownership of their fiefs and forces. Whatever the case, it was fair to say that the 2 greatest assets to the Republic were lost.